मैं भी 38 का हो गया हूँ और कभी कभी मुझे भी लगता था कि यार ये मेरा ब्लॉकबस्टर पिक्चर तो आ नहीं रही है, तो मैं क्या करूँ यार, कुछ और ट्राई करूँ क्या। मेरे को ऐसा लगता था यार, और हम सबको आई थिंक लाइफ में ये टाइम आता है जब आपको ऐसा फील होता है कि यार मेरा क्यों नहीं हो रहा है, कुछ गलत किया क्या मैंने, और आप कुछ और करने लगते हो। आपको कहीं कॉम्प्रोमाइज़ करना पड़ता है। और मेरे डीप डाउन मेरी फीलिंग यही है कि लाइफ में जो चीज़ बहुत ज़्यादा प्यारी लगे ना, जो दिल के बहुत करीब हो, वो करते रहना चाहिए यार। चाहे उसमें ज़्यादा सक्सेस मिले, थोड़ी मिले, लेकिन दिल खुश रहता है।
When you admire someone as much as I do, Shahid Kapoor, no matter how the movie and its reception is, I'll give it a rewatch even in theatres to know what went wrong. These are the thoughts that I went through, assuming that there may have been something that went missing in my analysis, that there must be something that is deeply misunderstood in O Romeo, so much so that it is being rejected by the audience. I am here to report to all of you that my feelings about this movie upon a rewatch has only become progressively sour. I have often told you guys that my love for Shahid Kapoor is something that I often equate to my support for Arsenal. You've seen the glory days, you see spurts of boundless potential, and you've seen the darkest days as well, where everyone disregards you for even considering being in contention to be one of the greats. You hold on to this relationship because you acknowledge the potential, only to be scarred multiple times as one bottles it whenever it matters the most. I thought through this video we can genuinely analyze in chronological order on what may have gone wrong with O Romeo, because I have definitely come to the conclusion that Shahid Kapoor is mostly concerned about the roles he is portraying and may just not have a radar to notice whether the screenplays in his movies are effective or not. When one does see their roles in a vacuum versus how they might be perceived in the story, something that Ranbir Kapoor is often criticized for, you often are found in this conundrum of being appreciated for your roles but often associated with movies that don't fare well financially. Let's talk about O Romeo and its specific demerits that led to it just not gaining momentum with the audience. I would love to know from you as well, what do you think is the reason why the movie did not artistically work? Mind you, this video is a spoiler-filled discussion. I think it's important to note where this movie is set historically. We are introduced to Mumbai in 1995, so there are two aspects that should be understood already. One, that there has been a fallout between Ustra and Jalal ever since the Babri Masjid incident happened, and two, Jalal has already in cahoots with terrorists in Pakistan conducted the 1993 Bombay blast that killed many innocent Indians. I genuinely believe after rewatching this movie that the first half of this film, mostly, is a Vishal Bhardwaj directed movie where his vision is mostly left untouched, and the second half is where the movie gets the influence of producers being adamant that they need to scale up. What Vishal Bhardwaj is known for is Shakespearean tragedies, and the introduction sequence of Ustra being presented with an ominous flute in the background as he strums his guitar in an abandoned ship is nothing short of masterful. We as an audience anticipated tragedy, a western set in the badlands of Mumbai in the 90s. The theme, the aesthetic, the vibe is set from the first frame. I still can't get over the fact that my sweet Daijan, by the way, says Teri Maa Ki in the very first scene of this movie. I also want to reference that beyond Chotu, played by Hussain Dalal in Shahid Kapoor's gang, we are absolutely distant from his funny motley crew. So when later on in the narrative we do lose some of his gang members in the Nepal mission, we absolutely feel nothing because we never get to know them. The dramatic sequence set in Nepal as the gang mourns the dead feels emotionally ineffective because you don't even marginally know the individuals in the gang. I will still say that stylistically this movie is a sight to behold. Even after a second watch, there are certain commercial elements of this movie that I loved, especially on how Ustra is presented as an action hero and his trusted weapon being shaving blades. Why I love this is because the dynamic with Nana Patekar and Shahid is such that before he is given the order to kill someone, usually one associates someone being handed over guns, but Khan hands Ustra over a new set of shaving blades, something established brilliantly with Ustra's origin story of having killed his father's murderers with one stroke of his shaving blade. For anyone in Mumbai who has been to Liberty Cinema, you know how iconic that cinema hall is, and the sequence of Shahid annihilating several shakals on an EDM version of Dhak Dhak was extremely entertaining. However, I must say that the criticism of staging and choreographing action in a Bhardwaj movie still remains, because you can see the gaps in between movement that make the sequence far more erratic than seamless. Shahid will be found gliding in one moment, but but the frame would change to a close-up or him completely doing something else, which is disconnected from where you left off seconds ago. Trust Bhardwaj's deranged sense of humor to still remain, where the financer of Jalal is watching a movie, telling the writer that no one will watch his movie beyond Bandra, to tapo the first half of a French film, and is also found snacking on popcorn as Shahid himself is killing his own gang members. I love how unserious Bhardwaj is in certain moments of this movie. This is actually one of his demerits too. One of the most entertaining dynamics of the movie is the relationship shared between Nana Patekar and Shahid Kapoor as the master and his kutia. I think these two had more chemistry than Shahid and Tripti in this movie. Even though the movie wanted to force a sequel before the end credits rolled, I think the prospect of a cop and his gangster executioner in an action comedy is far more exciting than the convoluted mess this movie became. I think one of the main reasons why people are disconnected from this movie, and this became set in stone with the second watch, is the emotional core. The love between characters is never allowed to be experienced. Ustra and his love for Afsa, on when exactly he feels drawn towards her, is never understood. His obsession is assumed versus felt. It's not even love at first sight. The ode to Romeo plus Juliet through the aquarium is fleeting. Shahid makes fun of her with her approach of giving him a supari for 4 people including Jalal. He makes fun of her constantly, is mostly annoyed of her presence, tells her to leave because she's from a Sharif ghar, and it's never really understood when things flip for Ustra on wanting to dedicate his entire life for her goal of vengeance. Similarly, the dynamic between Vikrant Massey and Tripti Dimri is never given an indulgent running time. In a flashback montage within a span of 10 minutes, the relationship goes from young love, approach of marriage, moving to Mumbai, falling into the wrong company, and the death of Vikrant. All of this happens within 10 minutes, and it is simply not enough for the audience to assume that the love was so strong that Tripti is willing to let the world burn, even if it means her own death for her one and only true love. Vikrant performs this brilliant scene where he is wailing in pain, hitting his head on the bed repeatedly, Tripti being in complete disarray. But because the portrayal is a montage, it's not emotionally immersive. Tripti warns Vikrant that if he fails to leave the world of crime, saying, "अगर नाकाम हुए तो मैं जान से मार दूंगी," the intensity seems misplaced because you are not even given a hint of how intense their relationship may be. The notion that Tripti's soul is connected to Vikrant is effective on paper, but when you don't let a relationship even blossom for the audience, how is one to connect with a character who is on the path of vengeance for the person throughout the 3-hour running time? When the emotion between characters, what Tripti had with Vikrant and what Shahid develops for Tripti, is not established well, how is the audience supposed to resonate with their mission? The songs in the first half, especially the 2 dance numbers, are extremely mediocre, and that comes from the biggest Shahid Kapoor fan. What's crazy is that Shahid, due to his training with Shamak Davar, is a very measured dancer. He doesn't throw his body everywhere in movement, but it's the first time in Aashikon Ki Colony where I felt Disha specifically was more measured and anchored in her movement versus Shahid, whose energy seems misplaced in the song. Ustra's love for Afsa is not even hinted at before heading for Fiji, going back only to her to get his stolen gun, only to see that she was on the verge of death, killing the lawyer who represented Pathare in the process, and all his plans of escaping come crashing down because he can't help but make her mission his purpose. The problem is we are not even given a sliver of where this obsession starts or stems from. The notion of Majnu willing to go to the depths of Barbadi for Laila is understood because of the indulgent time we spend with the 2 characters falling in love with each other. We don't get the luxury here. We get the song Ishq Ka Fever as she heals, or a moment where she sings angelically near the sea. What's a very confusing aspect of the movie is that Shahid tells Tripti that her husband was tortured and killed. One is confused because you don't know how Ustra knows this, and secondly, when it's shown how Vikrant is killed, he is finished after a mere chase scene and shot. So the torture he alludes to also is missing in the film, something which is a trigger for Tripti to learn how to shoot a gun. There are threads in this movie that are just missing from an editing point of view. What's crazy in retrospect is that Rahul Deshpande as Pathare is more intense and intimidating than the ultimate villain Avinash Tiwary as Jalal in this movie. What is also a very stupid argument this film makes is the moral line between gangsters and terrorists. that until hawala, guns, drugs, prostitution, and several illegal activities were happening in India, Ustra and even Tamanna Bhatia's character didn't have a problem with Jalal, but it's his association with Pakistan and terrorism is where they draw the line. So ruining people's lives in India through several of their illegal activities as a gangster is fine, but when you really have a problem is when you associate with the enemy state. I find this moral high ground to be rather funny. The mission in Nepal is where we are first introduced to Jalal, who is doing his passion project of bullfighting in Spain and learning the trade of being a matador while managing illegal operations in India. The more you watch this movie, the more hilarious Avinash's character gets. The death of any commercial movie when your villain comes across as unintentionally funny. Bro is doing side quests, playing fancy dress in Spain while his operations in India are crumbling. You want a villain who is on the ball with his devious missions, not someone who is distracted with bullfights. This is where I believe the film absolutely falters. The original story in Hussain Zaidi's chapter has Daud as the ultimate target for Sapna Didi and Ustra, and the movie changes this man who in real life was short, fat, but extremely cutthroat with his illegal businesses as this flamboyant, chiseled, buzz-cut sporting, tattoo-wearing, over-the-top villain chilling in Spain. If the movie still held on to this gritty tone of 90s Mumbai and set the dreaded gangster in Pakistan or Dubai, it still would have made pragmatic sense. But this leap aesthetically just seemed to be a part of another film entirely. It reminds me of the problem that a brilliant movie like Khuda Hafiz 2 went through. When the movie was set in the Badlands of Lucknow, it was raw and engaging to watch, but as the climax battle comes closer, the movie randomly shifts to Egypt, absolutely snatching you away from the understated and effective tone that was so well established throughout the movie. Even the scene of Avinash Tiwary taking off his shirt and killing the bull has this over-the-top wire work that does not make his introduction menacing. It's amusing. Look at this action scene in contrast to what happened in 2004 in Troy and how seamless the movement of Brad Pitt is. This is completely missing in O Romeo. I went into a wormhole of thinking about like villain introductions and just think about Bobby Deol in Animal. Both the characters in similar fashion are introduced very late in the narrative, but one in his introduction was menacing, intimidating and felt like a genuine threat, and the other just seems like a caricature. This is not to point out Avinash, who tries his best with his husky baritone delivery, but someone who is just hard done by because it's a character who seems to be from another universe completely. His menacing nature is presented through the way he kills a plumber. How is that supposed to scare me in any way? You know what's scary? Rahman Dakat killing his own father in an open market. Bobby Deol kills the messenger on his wedding day and bride in front of everyone. That's scary. The most misunderstood character from this movie, I believe, is Tamanna, who is dealing with the loss of her unborn child and is in a daze, a deranged psychosis. Again, a character who I believe was hard done by because of poor writing. Tripti becomes an asset for Nana Patekar, becoming Pathare's wife as a means for intel and eventually wanting to kill him. A detail you may have also missed is that the same Pandit who is showing prospective brides to Pathare is associated with the police actually. So Khan's mission from the get-go was to get a girl close to Pathare for intel. Though I must say, Pathare has to be the dumbest character if he couldn't just do a background check on Tripti and realize that she is the widow of the man that you literally killed a few weeks or months ago. There are still elements to appreciate as Vishal Bhardwaj keeps on integrating his charm through his writing. Ustra unable to get over Afsa, leaving him crying at the prospect of not getting turned on by another woman, immediately reminded me of Aditi Rao Hydari approaching Jordan in Rockstar and how she is amused with the fact that he is still not over here. The best action sequence of the movie also appears in the second half as Ustra burns the drug den of Jalal as the song Jalwa plays in the background. This sequence, as there is torrential rain and Shahid with his shotgun annihilates everyone, walking away in slow motion as the brilliant song played in the background, was genuinely the fleeting moments of cinema I craved more of. Nana Patekar is pissed off and of course hands Ustra a passport to leave. A cool thing that I noticed was that the passport had Shahid Kapoor's look as Guddu from Kamine on the photograph. Tripti is killing men in Ganpati, Shahid is still obsessed. A very well acted scene is actually the most contentious one where Shahid gets reminded that he can never take advantage of Afsa because he is obsessed with her. As Shahid is given intel that Pathare has come to know about Afsa's identity, how she is working working in cahoots with Khan, Shahid tries to warn them about the attack in the local, only to lead to Khan getting injured and Shahid's voice box getting affected. The point where Pathare surprises Afsa with honeymoon Spain tickets is where the film completely takes a nosedive in my opinion. Heading towards Jalal's carnival as everyone sports masks, Tripti attempts the laziest assassination attempt only to get caught. What's crazy is that Vishal Bhardwaj still wants to integrate humor in this juncture of the movie. A character like Jalal, who should be intimidating and taken seriously, is found playing the saxophone only for Pathare to turn off the music system, already creating the notion that Jalal is somewhat of a poser versus the real deal. I mean, your drug consignment are failing left, right and center and you're doing carnival parties? The downfall of this movie is simply how unserious Avinash Tiwary is in this film. He gives Tripti the opportunity to kill Pathare and locks her up, assuming Ustra will come to get her. This is where the movie becomes Padmavat. Let me explain. Tamanna is the tormented Mehrunisa, Jalal is Khilji, Ustra is Padmavati wanting to rescue his love Afsa, who is Ratan Singh. This parallel is even more obvious as Tamanna hands over the keys to the jail in which Afsa is trapped, much like how Mehrunisa leads Padmavati to release Ratan Singh. The action choreography in the estate as Shahid rescues Tripti with the operatic version of Hum To Tere Liye Hi The has its moments, but it again lacks the impact the action sequence requires near its climax. It doesn't leave you on the edge of your seat at all. Now imagine if the same sequence was on a hideout establishment in Pakistan. The theatrics of this Spain estate are just too distracting. Bro's estate is getting burnt और वो matador बना घूम रहा है वहाँ पर. What's even more hilarious after all that Shahid does is that Tripti tells him, आपकी जान की बाजी अब नहीं लग सकती. Bro, what do you mean? I've come to hell and back to save you. It's just too late now. What's the biggest fallacy from a writing POV is the inconsistent creative thread in the writing. When Tripti prays for Vikrant before she leaves their home to quit the world of crime, it leads to his death. She does the same for Shahid Kapoor as they head to kill Jalal, which should essentially lead to a tragic end. But they don't meet this fate. Shahid enters the arena and in a mere 4 minutes, guys, I clocked it. 4 minutes, the intimidating villain with global crime operation gets defeated. Even a moment of Avinash getting betrayed by Tamanna has zero dialogue. Think of the scene and the intensity with which the betrayal is captured in Padmavat between Ranveer and Aditi. We feel nothing here, not even when Tamanna's severed head is revealed. I'll tell you the main reason why you feel nothing. When Shahid and Tripti finish Jalal is because the stakes are just not there. Imagine in contrast if there was an impending attack being planned in India, how the motivating factor for both Ustra and Afsa would not just be the case of what Jalal and his men did to Vikrant, but also to protect innocent civilians in India. The reason why we feel nothing in this film is because the dude is just doing side quests of battles with bulls in Spain. It's completely disconnected with the threat that he poses to India. And to make the tragedy consistent with how the real life events took place, possibly make the ultimate battle so gruesome that Ustra ends up losing his life, all for the love that he is willing to burn the world for. This movie eventually prioritized style and scale that deeply impacted its quality, and for the audience to get exhausted versus immersed in the process. Despite the makers attempting in the end, you very well know that Romeo 2 ain't happening in the future. And that was the video, guys. Write down in the comments below, why do you think this movie failed to connect with the audience? Please don't forget to follow me on Instagram. The handle is right in front of you. Follow me at JammyPants4. Also, please support us by smashing the like button and subscribing to our channel for weekly content ahead. Thank you for watching.